Our scripture this morning is from Corinthians. Even if I can speak in all the tongues of earth and those of the angels too, but do not have love, I'm just a noisy gong, a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy, such that I can comprehend all mysteries and all knowledge, or if I have faith great enough to move mountains, but do not have love, I'm nothing. If I give away everything I own to feed those poorer than I, then hand over my body to be burned, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not jealous. It does not put on airs, and it is not snobbish. It is never rude or self-seeking. It is not prone to anger, nor does it brood over injuries. Love doesn't rejoice in what is wrong, but rejoices in the truth. There is no limit to love's forbearance, to its trust, its hope, its power to endure. Love never fails. Prophecies will cease. Tongues will be silent. Knowledge will pass away. Our knowledge is imperfect, and our prophesying is imperfect. When the perfect comes, the imperfect will pass away. When I was a child, I used to speak like a child, think like a child, reason like a child. But when I became an adult, I put childish ways aside. Now we see indistinctly, as in a mirror. Then we will see face to face. My knowledge is imperfect now. Then I will know, even as I am known. There are, in the end, three things that last: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love.
I'm particularly grateful to be with you today. I've been traveling this week. I don't think there are too many churches in the country where I could hold a job. So I'm very much aware of, this is definitely a good relationship, I think. I got a call about 3 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, from Congressman Greg Casar. And he wanted to reenact a thirst strike that he did when we got protections for workers in Austin. We're, through protests and persuasion and stuff, got protections in Austin for workers. Texas was the #1 killer of construction workers. And thanks to the lawmakers at the ledge, those protections are gone now. They want to make sure that the right to a 10-minute water break every 4 hours is not given away, that your employer will decide whether you're worthy. Right to life, liberty, pursue happiness. And so people came together, a lot of the old crew that worked on those rights originally. So it was like old home week, but I couldn't say what I was doing because the protest was secret at that time. So I had to say, I just need to leave. I'll be back, and what a church. And then the staff steps in and covers the session, takes my word for some reason. But what an honor to be there with these incredible activists that care so much about humankind. It was very hot on the Capitol steps, and I had the good fortune, I sat next to the nurses union. So there is a providence or something like that, because they're always slipping me water. They were like putting electrolytes, and I had to fight them away to keep them from putting water on my head. So I was supposed to do the opening prayer, which I don't do very good. I don't believe in sectarian prayer in mixed crowds. I think if I don't have your permission to bring up Jesus, I don't know if you're Jewish. I don't know if you're religious or not. So to me, there's nothing less like Jesus than forcing Christianity into the public sector. Then I was supposed to lead some songs, but we couldn't get the permit for the sound stuff, so we did the best we could do. Then I was supposed to pass the water to Greg when he breaks his fast. And the Washington Post said I blessed the water, which, as you know, that's not really my style. But it was a very powerful event. I was so grateful to be there. And just every 10 minutes, somebody, I'd look up and there'd be AOC or Bernie, or people from different parts. Well, not two different parts, different democratic parts of the country. And I thought about this series that we're doing on Sophia passages, how different the early church was from what it is now. I mean, it's stunning to me that Christian churches can support the brutality of taking away water breaks. What is more alien to Jesus Christ than not giving water with global warming increasing? Of course, a lot of them don't believe in global warming, so the razor wire on our borders for immigrants fleeing the damage that we've done over centuries in their countries, including death squads, and have to navigate this razor wire. Some of it's underneath the surface. And I just found out a couple of days ago, you'll like this one. This was in The Guardian. The Republican state leadership has decided that they will take over municipalities if they don't like, who needs democracy, right? So they've threatened to take over Austin. They've done that with Houston. And from this point on until sanity returns, librarians will no longer be hired in local schools, according to The Guardian. Instead, there'll be discipline centers, and you'll have the books, but you're not going to have smart people there to kind of help navigate that. And you would expect that with the direction this nation has been going. But what is a Christian to do? What is a person of faith? What is a human being supposed to do at a time like this? I want to talk about love today, but I want to talk about it in what I hope will be a very powerful and practical way for your life. One of the most important discoveries that I made years and years ago that's been so helpful to me has been the idea that there were 4 cardinal virtues in the ancient world. And for many in the early church, those were seen as the pillars and foundation of love, a life of love. So it wasn't just trying to have a feeling. It was wisdom, temperance, justice, and courage. I say those different every time I try. So courage, prudence. Well, prudence is wisdom. Courage, wisdom, or prudence, moderation or temperance, justice. And what I want to suggest is each one of those is a kind of a pillar that gives love its strength and power. Paul describes love in the great passage using philosophical terms. In Corinthians, he's using all kinds of philosophical terms to describe love. But in the Sophia passages, which again were in the Catholic Bible, they weren't in the Protestant Bible, but they were very early in the early church. They were written 100 to 200 years before Christianity. And the people that heard Jesus would have heard them first in many cases, which makes them very important. Let's look at the Sophia passage. Sophia is the Greek word for wisdom. In mystical Judaism, it got translated into Greek, and this was like a female almost a godlike figure who represents the creative principle of the universe. So wisdom is not just being smart, it's being attuned to nature. So you go, if great wealth is desirable in this life, how much more desirable are the riches of wisdom? And you see it's a person, it's a personality, it's been personified, of wisdom, who is the initiator of all things. In other words, it's talking about the cosmic principle. It's not, when the word doesn't just mean the Bible, it means the principle of nature, the principles of reality. If prudence is demonstrated through action, who more than wisdom is the initiator of action? For those who love justice, the fruits of wisdom are virtues. She teaches moderation, prudence, justice, and courage. When we get finished with this slide and go to the other one, can we come back to this afterwards? Well, I want to keep those words up. For those who desire breadth of experience, she knows all that is past, what will occur in the future. She understands the subtleties of arguments and the resolutions of perplexities, so she can tell when omens will be given and miracles will occur, and knows how the times and the ages will unfold. Could we go back to the original one before that? So you see there, I was so excited when I saw this, because I've wanted to share this for a long time, but sermons have to come from a scripture, and this is so helpful. In my life, it's been so helpful. If it's not helpful to you, we have great refreshments. So, moderation, a sense of balance, prudence, or wisdom, justice, and courage. You see this in Augustine, where he sees these as the four pillars. These are the classic virtues of the ancient world. The early church was a lot smarter than the church in Europe. The church in Europe got really stupid and has stopped seeing wisdom as something that is aware and reduced it to belief, to dogma belief. If you're trying to get to love, belief isn't going to get you there. That's not the train that goes all that way. So we're going to take each of those virtues. I thought about breaking it down into 4 different weeks, but I thought, man, this series is going to last. It'd be so embarrassing if Jesus came back before I finished mine. Especially he says, don't listen to him. Stop it. So, wisdom is an aspect of love. It's a pillar of love. When we only have the demand to love, and there's a feeling we think we're supposed to have, it can be very awkward, because sometimes you feel that, sometimes you don't. Or I guess I should personalize that. Sometimes I feel that, sometimes I don't. There are people who are just unlovable sometimes, right? And when you see people brutalizing innocent people all over the land, we really have to have discipline to get back to the love of Christ. That includes people who are bullying other people, who are harming other people. So wisdom is very important to return to the message of Christianity. This idea that we need to censor American history so that we don't throw up when we look at it is not very healthy. Does that sound shocking? It's pathological, it's sick. When you can't tell the truth about yourself and this nation and the history of this nation. There's a song that says, try that in a small town. I don't know if you've heard that or not. Very interesting. When they first did the video, it had Black Lives Matter. So you realized, okay, they say that's not going to happen in a small town. They're distinguishing between urban type people, get the association there, and just the good old boys in the small town. I think they had some issues with the copyright stuff. They took that out. So all of a sudden, that association isn't there anymore. People are saying, well, you're just making stuff up, being concerned by this. But if you were raised in the South, you know there's a coded language. You know that. And if we don't call it out, then that makes the targeted people have to do it. Think how unfair that is. You know what it means when they talk about sundown, right? You've read the history. You know when they talk about welfare mothers, welfare queens. You know that's coded language. Do you think it's a coincidence, really, that the song was recorded at a courthouse where a black man was lynched? In a very famous episode. And even if it was an accident, even if he didn't know that, wouldn't you be sorry when you found that out and say, oh my God, that's not what I meant? Well, that's not what they're doing. They're doubling down. And Trump has doubled down this whole time. Christian nationalists have doubled down this whole time. So some of us have got to show what love looks like for everybody. And wisdom is a part of that. It's not somebody's fault that they were taught a pathological idea of religion, that you're supposed to believe what the preacher says. The people here know what a bad idea that would be. Right? The preacher needs to get you thinking for yourself. I'm supposed to lead you to awareness and your own insights, your own perceptions. If you leave here just parroting what I said, that's not going to help anybody. So wisdom is a call to learning, to exploring. Would you rather have somebody that has beliefs about you or somebody who's listening to you? Belief cannot take us to love. Belief cannot take us to love. It takes awareness. It takes wisdom. Things. So, when you think about what superstition and propaganda and belief does to your own heart, how it shuts it down, you understand in a small way what it's doing to the whole world. And it helps you realize what this ancient author is trying to share with us. That a part of love, one of the 4 pillars of love, is honesty and awareness and learning and growing. Then the second pillar is, I'm putting 2 of them together so I'll have a 3-point sermon. A lot of ancients did that anyway. The moderation or temperance and courage are kind of the same thing in a way. When Plato defined courage, he did it in a very interesting way. He said it's the strength to deal with both your fears and your desires. And we learn from like a lot of mystical cultures that you have, peace of mind, but you've got all your fears on one side and your desires on the other. And they're not bad, but they throw you off balance. When we let fear make our decisions, what happens in our heart, what happens in the world? Religion that's based on fear of hell is only going to lead to cruelty. You understand that in your life. Making your decisions from fear leads to cruelty. To treat immigrants like objects, to bus them to other places to make an example of them, to leave workers out in the heat and say employers will make the decisions about whether those people get their constitutional rights and human rights. See, that's capitalism 101. You're looking through the dollar to determine value, and it's going to destroy the planet, and it's caused misery for centuries and centuries. Please don't come up after church and say it's just a few bad eggs. The problem with capitalism is not a few bad eggs, it's the freaking goose that's laying the eggs, right? You don't have to throw capitalism away, but you have to ground on a foundation of human rights and ecological sustainability. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of losing my balance in the part where I'm supposed to be. So we do lose emotional balance. This happens, but to realize that's where our sanity can be found. Not in getting what I desire, not in escaping what I fear, but in finding that sweet spot between them. Peace of mind is built in you. Peace of mind is there when you stop running from what you fear and chasing after what you want. There's nothing wrong with running away from alligators. There's nothing wrong with wanting something that would bring joy into your life. But to realize that's not where your bliss comes from. That is, it's this, there was a model that said, I ran across on the airplane, you see all these like bourgeois kind of, and she said the reason she was able to keep her weight down was because there was nothing that tasted good as thinness feels. Now, I can't go there. I can't go there, but I think it's very true that there's nothing in life that tastes better than peace of mind feels. So to realize the treasures in you is a huge discovery. That you're not this empty vessel that something else is going to feel. You are a child of the cosmos. You're an expression of the cosmic principle. Coming to your own nature will lead you to peace. Then the last idea, I'll put those two together, is justice. We talk a lot about that. But it's important to realize justice has to be an aspect of love. If we just go after justice directly, we're going to go insane. We can't stop loving other people just because they're causing harm in the world. We can't let them hurt other people if we can keep that from happening. But we're all the same species. And if we ever forget that, we go insane. Whenever I think I'm a different kind of human being than someone else, that I'm on my way to that same crazy bus. Justice is the commitment to never purposefully harm another member of your human family. To never value anything over a member of your human family. And I would include the web of life in that. But the reason people harm other people is because they value something else more. The reason people mistreated people of color in this country over the centuries is not because they were afraid. It's not even because they hated, they were greedy. And they dehumanized other people so they could get what they wanted to. So we have to step out of that. I can't change the nation, I can change my heart. And that begins the process. Do you realize that when you change your heart, when you bring these great virtues into your own life, that you become like a light to the world? You change the equation when you change your own heart. You'll make mistakes, but that's a part of the learning and teaching. When you make a mistake and forgive yourself, that teaches something too. That's very important. So this week, when you read the paper or you see the news headlines and you're just so tempted to go into hatred, get lost in anger, get lost in bitterness, or to start telling lies about the other side. That's popping up all over the place now on the left. There are websites that are just based on lying about Republicans. That's not going to help either. Love is the way out. But that's a very superficial phrase unless we realize the ground of love are those 4 pillars. So whenever you can't love and you've lost, check and see if the pillars are intact. See if you're in emotional balance, because you may have to take care of that first. See if you're making your decisions out of fear or hope. See whether you're living in your whole human family, or if you're just taking care of your own. What's left? We got justice, courage, wisdom. Kind of the whole point. When love seems to be inadequate, what do you have to learn about the world, about humanity, or about your own heart? I have found these 4 pillars to be absolutely priceless in my life. I hope it's something that you will take away with you. So what are they? Like, you got them behind me. Moderation, prudence, and courage. So that is my wish for every one of us. Thank you so much for your attention.